What's up everyone, I'm Zero and welcome back to Zero 2. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Yu-Gi-Oh's upcoming set, Supreme Darkness. This set drops on January 23rd in the TCG and brings support for both classic archetypes you know and love, and some exciting new ones too. With over 123 cards in the lineup, it can feel overwhelming, but don't worry, I've got you covered. I've gone through every single card to bring you my top 5 picks, some sleeper hits, and the most fun and wacky effects that this set has to offer. Let's make Supreme Darkness a whole lot easier to understand in this edition of Pack Preview. Starting out with the top 5, this set introduces a whole host of strong archetypes and individual cards. At number 5, we have Snake Eye's Doom Dragon, a new fusion monster that's actually more generic than the Snake Eye name would suggest. It requires you to send 2 monster cards from your spell and trap zone from the graveyard to summon him. I mean, you could fusion summon him normally, but I don't see anyone doing that. And then on summon, it gets to target a monster in the field and place it in its owner's spell and trap zone. This makes it a strong tool for archetypes like Centurion, Snake Eyes, Crystal Beast, and others that interact with monsters in the back row. And this acts as a free 3k body with added removal that is non-destructive, making it very powerful for going second and cleaning up games. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it finding its home in a number of decks. At number 4, we've bundled up all the good White Forest cards. Those, in my opinion, are Elzette, Azamina of the White Forest, Sinful Spoils Awakening, and Azamina Aphis. Elzette seems absolutely crazy, turning all of your other White Forests in hand into free extenders, giving the deck native access to fusion summoning, and also searching for any Sinful Spoils card when used as synchro material. This card just does everything. One card that you can search with this is Sinful Spoils Awakening, a new trap card that can bounce up to 3 cards your opponent controls to the hand. And it gets to reset itself for free if you control a level 5 or higher illusion, which is most of your synchros. And last but not least is Azamina Aphis, which always treats itself as a White Forest card, and is another bounce up to the number of fusion and or synchro, illusion, fiend, and spellcaster monsters in your field or in your graveyard, giving the deck even more interruption. White Forest has been falling off in recent tournaments, but I expect this new support to breathe some life into this archetype once more. At number 3, we have Mulcharmy Meows, the 4th card in the Mulcharmy lineup, and another take on the Maxi style effect. Meows can be discarded if you control no cards, allowing you to draw whenever your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard or banishment. While this might seem situational compared to summoning from the hand or deck, it's extremely relevant in the current meta, especially against techs like Malice and Fiendsmith, who can give you multiple draws to do their main combo. The downside to this is that it is format dependent. Meows could easily fall out of favor with a ban list or meta shift. Still, I think it's a powerful card that's worth picking up, whether it's now or as a future tech option. In the number 2 slot, I want to talk about the new world premiere archetype being released, Mitsurugi. Mitsurugi is an archetype of reptile ritual monsters that benefit from being tributed and accrue a significant amount of advantage, while also contributing to the end board with a board nuke and a hand rip for minimal investment. This is all backed up by a very strong ritual spell that acts as either advanced ritual art or high ritual art, allowing you to ritual summon either a monster from your deck or tributing the materials from your deck, depending on what you already have in hand. People expect that the Mitsurugi cards will likely see a smattering of competitive success, with most people slotting them in as an engine in Raziel, which is already the best strategy. With high rarity cards and immense potential, Mitsurugi is shaping up to be a hot commodity on release. Now, what could top an archetype that people expect to see immediate success in the format? Well, it's a card that, by itself, people expect to propel Blue Eyes to become the best deck after their structure deck releases. I'm of course talking about Primite Dragon Ether Barrel, who is a number 1 card on my top 5. Ether Barrel searches for a Primite spell trap on summon, and tributes itself to dump a normal monster from deck to graveyard. Additionally, it gets to add itself back to hand during each standby phase, provided you have a normal monster on field or in grave. This one card does pretty much everything you could want in Blue Eyes, searching you a free revive for your Blue Eyes and Lordly Load, and then that Lordly Load can search you an Omni Negate for an on-field effect in Primite Drill Beam. This compact engine will likely find a home in any deck that values a normal monster, but Blue Eyes is just the best example given how dominant it is in the OCG at the moment. Ether Barrel will likely be the most anticipated and sought after card from Supreme Darkness, so if you intend to play Blue Eyes in the upcoming structure deck, picking up this card is an absolute must. Let's move on to the sleeper picks, those underrated gems in Supreme Darkness that might not be grabbing headlines but are worth picking up before they gain traction. In the 5th sleeper slot, we have another Primite card, and one that you can look to tech into the Blue Eyes strategy we just talked about, and that is Primite Scream. There aren't many OCG lists that are playing Scream, but it's a searchable Solemn Warning that can reset itself if you have Barrel on your field during the standby phase. Right now, people are focused on grabbing Aether Barrel, but they're probably overlooking Scream, and since it'll only cost a few cents on release, it's a low-risk pickup that could spike in value later on. In the fourth sleeper slot, we have the Evil Hero cards. I've seen almost no one talking about these online, and they seem to be a fairly decent extenders, at the very least in the Omni-Hero strategy. They synergize with Dark Fusion and enable some plays and combos that Hero previously didn't have access to. I could just as easily see these flopping, but if you find them for cheap, since no one seems to be chasing for these, then picking them up might be a good idea. At number 3, we have the Arcana Force cards, and it might be a bit of a stretch to call these sleepers, but hear me out. Yes, a lot of people have talked about them and are aware of them, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that they only have one super rare and the rest of the cards are at common. They should be extremely affordable to pick up, and combined with some of the older Arcana Legacy support can make a fairly potent deck that, if uninterrupted, can win on turn 1, and if interrupted, at least ends on a Mystic Mine on legs. These cards are surprisingly good, and are, in my opinion, a worthwhile and small investment to make when Supreme Darkness comes out. At number 2, we've got Abystrite, the Atlantean Spirit. This was some amazing support for your Mermail Atlantean deck, which is already seeing a solid amount of success at the regionals. It's a rank 7 monster that fits perfectly into Mermails that on summon gets to bring back a level 7 monster from your graveyard, giving you extra material for your Link or Xyz plays. On top of that, you can detach a material to search for an Abyss spell trap, which gives you flexibility depending on whether you need to grab Extension or Interruption. If you're running Mermails, this is definitely a card you'll want to grab. The number 1 sleeper that I wanted to talk about is the new Tenyi support coming out in this set. They're getting an absolutely bonkers field spell that on activation gets to add one of their insane power spells, either Vessel of the Dragon Cycle or Heavenly Dragon Circle, from deck to hand depending on what you need. It also gives you removal by tributing worms, and during your end phase can tag out into the old Tenyi field spell to give you draw power on top of all that. The card is quite literally custom support, but that isn't all. They also get a new main deck tuner that, when used as a synchro material, can tutor out any of their links for free, accruing you a ton of advantage. And last but certainly not least is their new Synchro monster, which on summon gets to search for their new broken field spell. And if you controlled a non-effect monster, which you get for free if you use the new main deck guide, can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, and also gets to attack twice, giving you essentially a free OTK. I've seen next to no one hyping up these cards, and I personally can't wait to try them out in both pure and Sword Soul variants of the deck. Alright, now we're on to my favorite section of the pack preview, the fun and interesting cards. This is where we get to talk about the weird, wacky effects and some of the pack filler that doesn't get enough love. These cards aren't necessarily good, but they're unique and deserve their moment in the spotlight, so let's get into it. At the number 5 slot, we have Double Wild, a quick play spell that lets you target a level 5 or lower monster on your field and search for a level 10 with the same type. You can additionally discard a card to summon that monster from your hand, and you're locked into that typing for the rest of the turn. It's a fun effect, and I already have a few ideas for it in trains, but a card that no one expects to have any significant impact at the moment. Still, searching for any level 10 is an effect that could be crazy in the future, so I'm prepared for this take to age poorly. At number 4, we have Curse of the Ancient Turtle, a personal favorite of mine that supports zombies. It lets you banish a zombie from hand to send one from deck to the graveyard. Then while it's in your graveyard, if a zombie is destroyed by battle, you can banish it to summon a zombie with 2,000 or less defense from your deck. I like this card because it essentially turns any of your zombies into Pyramid Turtle, one of my favorite GOAT format cards, and I love paying homage to him in a modern support card. Coming in at number 3 are Halloween and Halloween. These cards are actually ones that I've already talked about on my channel before when we were doing the Master Duel event, and now we're finally getting the physical versions. I just love holiday-themed cards, and Konami, if you're listening, please make more of them. I'm crossing my fingers that next Halloween we'll get to hear about even more of their exploits and antics. At number 2, we have Liberator Eto, who is definitely in here more so for being interesting, as the effect isn't half bad, just strange. You special summon him for half your life if your opponent has a card on their field or in their graveyard that responds to, and/or has responded to, one of your effects. This can be a negate, a hand trap, a Rising Old Detonator type effect, so there's certainly no shortage of these floating around. Its summon can't be negated, and it's unaffected by your opponent's monster effects. All of this on a 4K body sounds appealing, but at the same time it doesn't really do anything. Sure, it's large and hard to get rid of, but I'm not convinced that it'll be enough for him to see any actual sort of play. Only time will tell, but at the moment he certainly has a peculiarity coming out of Supreme Darkness. The top slot on this interesting cards list goes to Abao Aku, the Lightless Shadow, a new Link 4 Dark Fiend that has some very unique effects. First off, it has a quick effect during either main phase to discard a card and either pop a card on the field or banish itself to summon back a light or dark from grave. This is a solid piece of an end board, but that's not all. During your standby phase, you get to draw cards equal to the number of different monster types in your graveyard, but you have to put back an equal number of cards from your hand into the deck, making for a weird Saryuja-esque hand sculpting effect. This card almost made it into my sleepers list, but I'm just not convinced that it's good yet. Still, it's so unique that I had to include it here. Maybe someone will find a way to break it and I'll be eating my words, but for now it's just a really intriguing card that I can't stop thinking about. And with that, you should now have a solid understanding of some of the best cards coming out in Supreme Darkness. We've covered the best cards, the sleeper picks, and some of the most fun and interesting options this set has to offer. Of course, there's still plenty we didn't get to, so if you have any cards or archetypes you think I missed, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and chat about them there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. We're on our way to 100 subscribers, and you can always change your mind on the road. It's one simple click and would mean the world to me. Now, if you didn't like this video or have any suggestions on how I can improve, I'd love to hear that feedback too. These videos are for you all, so let me know down in the comments what I can do to make these videos better. But with that all aside, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!